Okay, we're going to critique the process speeches, and again, we're going to do this by your fantasy name. I want to go back and tell you a few things. You need to pay close attention to this. Number one, June 8th, I sent out an email message to all members of the class in which the outlines for what you were supposed to cover in your speeches, including the length, was on those speeches. You've been told a number of times, pay no attention to anything that may be someplace else. Some of you decided the length of the speeches was much more. And if you look at the sheet of paper I sent out that had the rules for speech number 2, the process speech, you will find out that many of you went way too long on it. But you need to do that. I've said time and time again that you need to do all the discussion boards. You need to take all the tests. Those are all points if you leave on the table. We got some people that aren't doing the first part of the discussion board. We got some people that aren't doing the second part of the discussion board. We've got some people that aren't taking exams, not following the rules when there is something for you to do. You're losing points. You can't afford to lose points in this class. On the speeches themselves, this time there were some problems because, to be honest with you, many of you didn't really seemingly pay any attention to anything we've said in the past. I'm going to say this one more time. Now listen very carefully. See this shot? Inch or two above the head. All right. Bust line right in here. This is the only shot I ever want to see in any of your speeches. Do I need to repeat that? Pay attention to it. You're also supposed to write me and tell me by a deadline that's established that you actually looked at this video all the way through and you understood everything that was said. You're giving me those notes, but obviously you're not paying any attention to what I say. Doesn't do you any good to watch this if you pay no attention to what I'm telling you need to be paying attention to. This shot is all. If you have visuals, refer to the visuals, send me a copy. Now let's talk about that. I, on a number of occasions, have said, send me one email message. Attach everything for that speech to that one email message. Some of you aren't doing that. You have specific instructions of what to put on the subject line of all email messages you send me. Some people aren't doing that. You have instructions on all of your emails must come from your Ivy Tech email address to my Ivy Tech email address, and that's not always happening. So, I got to get tough, and you're not going to like it because when the grades start to suffer because you don't follow directions, it's about all I can do. The audience. Said this before. Let's say it one last time, hopefully. Some of you still aren't getting it. You need an audience of 6 people. You will fail the speech for not having 6 people in your audience. You get grade deductions for every person less than 6 in your audience, okay? The audience comes by the camera. They look right at the camera and they say, my name is Keith Klein and I'm over 21, and they leave. The next person comes in. They do the same thing until all 6 of them have done that. They sit down. You do not move the camera to where they're sitting. They come to the camera. All right? Now, after they have cleared and they're quiet, you move in, take a deep breath, look down at your notes, make sure you know what you're going to say first, look at the camera, and start your speech. That's another point. On the rubrics for the grade, there's some variation, as it is on this speech, that says established credibility on topic. A lot of you are just starting your speech, and I have no idea why you're talking about that topic. As credibility can be that all of my life I have done this, or all of my life I have been interested in this, or I have a degree in. Those are all ways you establish your credibility. You must establish your credibility, or I will sit there through the entire speech, as your audience would too, and say, why are you talking about that? What qualifications do you have to be saying what you're saying? All right. So now let's get into the actual critiques. Mallorca, you have potentially a strong topic, but it wasn't as well presented as it needed to be. The concepts were there, but you need to work on your presentation skills. You have too much paper noise. Watch the hair flip. We've talked about that when you're talking. You have the wrong shot. You're shooting up straight in. I've talked about that. See, this is costing you points on your speeches. Label your outlines. There are 2 outlines for every speech. It's listed in the instructions I sent out to you. What was that date? That date was June the 8th in your emails. Take a look. All right, so label your outlines. One is a speaking outline, one is a preparation outline. Don't make me guess which is which. It's got to be on every page of the outline you send me. You're bouncing up and down as you talk. Maybe not as much as this, but you're moving too much and it's distracting. Slow down just a bit so that you don't go so fast. You can control 5 things. We've talked about that: pitch, pace, tone, volume, silence. Work on some of those things. Silence is your friend. You have too many you-knows and a fair number of uhs and ums, and you use the term X specially, EX. It's especially, so no EX. All right, next up is Clover. You have the wrong shot. You're only being shot from your shoulders up. That needs to be fixed. You're reading far too much. Stand still when you're moving around a lot. Stand still. You're rocking too much. Watch your articulation. You have some times when you run your sentences together, and it's kind of like, let me tell you about that. Let me tell you about that. Let me tell you about that. And it's hard to understand if I don't hear, let me tell you about that. Now, I've overdone it there, but if you have, let me tell you about that, let me tell you about that, it's a lot harder to distinguish that than when you say, let me tell you about that. All right? Work on that. You need to separate your words as you speak. Don't touch yourself when you're speaking. Don't do one of these things or do one of these things while you're talking. Get some more energy in your voice when you're speaking. This speech is all over the horizon in terms of what you're talking about. And you mention your topic, but you didn't mention it until 4 minutes and 20 seconds in to talk about what the theme was. And you only had one outline, and that was not labeled. Next up is Sugary. You ran way too long. Let me check here real quick and see. Clover, you ran okay, and Mallorca, you ran okay. But Sugary, you ran 6 minutes and 11 seconds on a 4-minute speech. You have absolutely the wrong audience intro. You have the wrong shot and the wrong composition on the way that the camera was shooting you. The formatting of your outlines is all messed up. That needs to be fixed. The font is too small, and only the speaking outline was labeled. The camera is too far away from you. The microphone is on the camera. As a result, it's hard to hear you. There was a lot of room noise. You need to talk to me. I'm the camera. Talk to me. Forget your audience. Talk to me. You get lost in your own speech. 235 in. What is telling and how do you do it? Make sure that you smooth those things out. What's the difference between dirt and earth? You mentioned that. I'm asking that question, but you say use some dirt or some earth, and I want to know what the difference is. Your speech, scream for visuals, and don't thank an audience for listening. They had no choice. So when you're done, just finish. Don't say, and I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. No, don't do that. Next up is vols. You have good citation of your sources. You have too much camera movement. Cameraman, take your hands off the camera. Don't touch it. Don't zoom. Don't tilt. Don't pan when the person is speaking. If you have this shot, there is no reason to do any of that. All right. You need more light on your face. And also don't stand in front of a whiteboard because that iris in the camera will iris down when you do that. What else? You have distracting words behind you on the board or door or whatever that is behind you. You need to work on being at a podium or being ready for that. It was too long before you got to the process part of your speech, and you're reading too much, and as I said, you ran long on the speech. Next up is Koonz, Koonz. You ran long also, but you also need to work on your visual aids. You had the wrong intro for the audience and the wrong shot. You have a nice speaking style, but I can't see your face because of the camera work and the lights. Work on flow. This was a good speech, but it was not the right one for this class, given the required camera shots, and you had a very abrupt ending on your speech. And finally, we'll talk to Lefty. Lefty, you only turned in one outline. Your time limit, you went short on your speech. There were only 5 in your audience. You turned off the camera on the intros. You need more room light. Slow down just a bit, and make sure your audience knows the terms you're using, your terms about various tools. You may understand what that means, but if I've never done what you're telling me to do, then I don't know a mop from a broom, let's say. You got to explain which is which. I've never used either, so you need to tell me that. Also, when you get into lug wrench, lug nuts, and jack, people need to have, those who don't know what you're talking about need some more kind of assistance there. You had a strange kind of flat ending. Your outline is not labeled, whether it's preparation or speaking. You talk about turning and driving, and you have a light tisk. Remember that we talked about that sound that you make? Okay. Now, I'm going to post your latest scores attached to this. It'll be an Excel spreadsheet. You'll be in the message that you get. You can see what your latest grade is. A couple of you have sent me messages that say that you don't understand what the grade number is. Something's not there. I've got to know. Call me when I can look at what you're looking at. There are some things that indicate you're getting points for them. I've told you about that. Those are things that are for your benefit to do. You get no points for it. The only points you get are what we reference in the syllabus for this course. Now, if you have any questions, call me in my office. Do that. It's really important that you let me know what is concerning you. All right, that's it. We'll talk to you next time.